Let's now have a look at the answer to the question, what kind of Messiah is Jesus going to be? The big answer, that the big question that is backed by Zechariah 3, um, that, that, that opens, that is the key to open this passage to. So we ask ourselves the right question when we're not asking ourselves in which way could Jesus have possibly sinned here, but we're asking the right question, what kind of Messiah is Jesus going to be? Now, the first test that the devil tempts Jesus with is this one. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. And then Jesus will not do that. Now, and he quotes scripture back at him and makes a reference to the bread from heaven and the words that come from God. Now, what's the significance of that? The significance is that, remember, at that time the Jews were under Roman authority and they were heavily taxed, and there was just a lot of poverty and a lot of hunger around, and one of the things that they had plenty of was stones. Now, if there was a person who was able to take those stones and make them into bread, that person would be an ideal revolutionary. That person would be the kind of Messiah that a lot of people expected. If he was able to go around and turn stones into bread, people would have easily followed him around. Now, the reason Jesus rejects it is because he is saying, I am not that kind of Messiah who goes around feeding the people. Remember, the Romans even had a saying of how they controlled this large empire that they've had. And the saying was by bread and games. This is how the Romans controlled their empire. And so the question that is posed at Jesus here, are you the same kind of Messiah? Are you the same kind of king who's going to control his empire through bread, through feeding the poor, so they would obey him and walk with him? And he denies it, and he says, no, my kingdom is going to be one in which we don't live off that kind of bread, but we live from the words that come from the mouth of God. Now the second temptation is here, where the devil takes him to the highest point of the temple, and he says, throw yourself down and show the whole world that is watching you that the angels will catch you, so you will not strike your foot against a stone. Now, again, the significance here is that the devil is asking him, are you going to be the kind of the Messiah that will perform miraculous signs? Are you going to perform miracles so people will know who you are, so people will know that you are the Son of God, and they will follow you because they see your powers on display? And now Jesus is telling him, no, my kingdom is not going to be of that sort. That is an expectation, especially on the temple. The temple, of course, representing the presence of God. If somebody came and he performed a great miracle in the presence of God, of course, they would have gotten the reference, this must be the Messiah, and they would have come after him, always expecting that he would perform more miracles. Jesus is denying that, and he says, this is not the kind of kingdom that I'm seeking to establish. My kingdom is one in which we trust God and we don't put him to the test. And again, remember the reference here to the Israelites and when they were at Horeb in Exodus 17. The last temptation is then the one where he says, if you will bow down and worship me, you will be able to get all the kingdoms of the world. Now remember, this idea here is that God is the one who rules in heaven, and he originally also ruled on earth or on this world, but because mankind rebelled against him, they have invited other forces, involuntarily have invited other forces to rule over them, and these other forces are represented by the devil. These are the forces of evil and darkness and destruction and decay. Now, what the devil is trying to tempt Jesus with is, he's saying, are you going to be the kind of Messiah who will gain control of this whole world by force? Are you going to be a powerful Messiah who will take over the whole world and then establish his kingdom? And this is what Jesus becomes extremely angry and shies him away and says, away from me, Satan. I will only ever worship the Lord our God, and I will serve him alone. Now this is setting up sort of the kind of messiahship, the kind of kingdom that Jesus will eventually bring, because that is That is the big upside down character of Jesus' kingdom. It's not a kingdom of power. When God, and that is one of the most beautiful truths we can ever get a hold of. When God flexes his powerful muscle, it doesn't look like, when God displays the ultimate act of power, it doesn't look like Jupiter or Zeus. It looks like a young carpenter's son going to the cross and dying there for those whom he loves. That is the most beautiful truth you and I can ever get a hold of. And we see that set up here, prepared in the way Jesus responds to the temptation of the devil, and in the way in which he makes clear what kind of kingdom he's going to bring: a kingdom of love, a kingdom of service, a kingdom of self-sacrifice.